updates on the recent wave of anti-Asian violence in the United States. We have Virginia Gunawan from VOA in Washington, D.C. Hi, Virginia.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
I'm very, very well. I hope you're staying safe, Virginia. So for the recent update, we know that hate crimes have always been existent, but what do you think started the rise in the visibility of the strings of racially motivated attacks recently?
Well, there has been any official data from law enforcement in the United States, but activists and U.S. lawmakers, including the current administration, pointing out that the rhetoric used by the former President Donald Trump set off these attacks. In a couple instances, during his presidency, Trump mentioned the coronavirus as the China virus, the Kung flu, the Wuhan virus, and calling it from China. And this specific language are being seen as the trigger for some attacks against Asian American. Now, if we see the data gathered by the California State University, there is a 150% increase of hate crimes towards Asian Americans in the year 2020 in comparison to 2019, the previous year. The data came from 16 most populous cities in the United States, with New York seeing the most increase of 833% from 3 incidents in 2019 to 28 incidents in 2020. And one of the largest advocacy groups, Stop AAPI Hate, reports that during March 2020 to February 2021, so during the pandemic, the start of pandemic, there are at least 3,800 anti-Asian incidents in the United States. So, and it's ranging from racial slurs to physical attacks to the Asian communities in the United States. Okay.
So, just out of curiosity, there are many different kinds of ethnicities and minorities in the U.S., but specifically Asians. Historically, how have the Asian community been perceived as a minority in the U.S.?
So, as you mentioned, it is very interesting if we talk about the Asia in America or Asian in America, because when we talk about Asian, we're talking about at least 50 different ethnic groups.
Yes.
And with more than 100 or more than languages being spoken. And so it is a very big and monolithic ethnic groups itself in comparison to other ethnic groups such as Arabic or Middle Eastern of the Hispanic. However, Asian of the East Asian descendants, including the Chinese and the Japanese, are the most prone to marginalization. In the late 19th century, for example, with the Chinese Exclusion Act that prohibited the immigration from China for the Chinese to come to America and work here, and also after the Japan attacked Pearl Harbor during the World War II, when at that time President Roosevelt, FDR, he established an internment camp for the Japanese descent in America and put these people of the Japanese descent in the United States, even if they're a U.S. citizen, to live in the isolation camp. But in the modern era itself, right now, we're seeing that there are a lot of model minority myths, whereas Asians are being perceived to be somewhat more or universally successful in comparison to other minorities. Yeah. So if you look at the social media, we're seeing the meme saying, there will always be an Asian kid doing it better than those kind of things. Yes. This model minority is being perceived and being seen widely among the Asian American, and also they're being seen as a reserved and a very quiet ethnic group. So I also spoke with several activists, and they see this myth, model minority myth, as a way of downplaying the Asian minority in the United States, the struggle, especially being quiet parts. So when they're being accused of something, and when they're putting into misery, they're putting down this hardship and being part and making them, the Asian American, as an easy target because of the perception of being weak. Okay.
The perception of being weak, compliant, perhaps, because the Asian Americans are always known to be Asians everywhere are known to be very stand-up citizen, hard-hitting, But political leaders and public figures have also shown their support for the movement against anti-Asian violence. Has this movement been fruitful in also educating the general public so far?
Yes, we're seeing more and more support coming from political leaders and also celebrities, particularly Asian descent celebrity. Indeed, we're seeing President Joe Biden himself and his administrative are speaking about it really loud, and he went to Atlanta, Georgia, addressing the issue. And the White House also allocated around $80 million for nonprofit organizations and research centers and universities to support Asian Americans communities across the country, and also doing studies, doing research about how to counter xenophobia and the bias against Asian communities in the United States. Apart from that, U.S. lawmakers has also proposed a bill, COVID hate crime bill, this is what it calls, which has also been endorsed by Joe Biden as well. And this bill, if being passed, this bill will give the Justice Department, the United States Justice Department, to have more power and have more, and to be more, to have the boost to address hate crimes relating to COVID-19. So in that bill, it also requires the department to issue a certain type of guidance to states and local law enforcement officers so that they can address the issues of Asian hate or hate crime, particularly in a more sensitive, particularly culturally sensitive manner, in order to see the development from the issue itself. Hi.
So, this is one interesting thing, because we know that a lot of Indonesian citizens or perhaps Indonesian Americans are also living there. Have any Indonesian diaspora reported anti-Asian incidents directed towards them?
As previously reported, it was shown that 2 teenagers diaspora in Philadelphia, they were attacked while they were waiting the subway in Philadelphia subway system in SEPTA. And those 2 teenagers currently, up till now, they haven't decided if they want to report the incident to the law enforcement. They are talking about it, either if they want to report it to the police officer. But there another incident in Seattle with a church predominantly is filled with Asian communities there, and the pastor there is an Indonesian diaspora. He has mentioned that there are several cases, 4 cases of vandalism towards his church, expletive words mentioned, put down, written with haze on the grass in front of the church with expletive words and mentioning China, and also words that is offending. At first, the incident was reported to the police, and then the police, after several investigations, and also because the expletive words and mentioning China, the case itself has been escalated into a hate crime and bias crime, according to the Seattle Police Department. So there are several instances, but then again, as previously mentioned, it is mostly unreported because of the minority myth, and also there are several other issues, especially because the police officer and the local authorities are being perceived as not an ally towards minorities in the United States. That's why it was being underreported and kept between the communities instead of being reported as a formal case in the police or as part of law enforcement.
So just to summarize, you mentioned today that President Joe Biden is currently working on a bill that could give the justice system more power in dealing with court cases like these. And do you see this perhaps rolling out in a positive way, specifically for Asian hate crimes, last but not least?
There are a lot of factors that weigh in when it comes to the bill, because right now we're seeing the FBI actually has a specific department to handle the hate crime. However, the hate crime itself is being defined. according to the activists that are working right now, they're trying to find out if you know, if right at the moment, if you are reporting a hate crime,
yeah,
the hate crime, the suspect have to mention that they are hating a specific group, they are hating a specific religion. But then again, some activists are mentioning that, you know, probably that shouldn't be the case. Probably you should see how many of these victims are being affected. The proportion of the race, of the proportion of the religion, identity of the victim should be considered as part of identifying a crime. Is it a hate crime or is it just a regular crime? So right now, those are the things that are being weighed in and are trying to be discussed within the lawmakers, and see if the change of the definition of hate crime can be actually implemented into the legal framework in the United States.
That certainly would bring about some very, very significant updates, especially because it would be legalized. Thank you so much, Virginia, for your update, and please keep us updated should any new updates come out, especially specifically to this particular topic that is trending all over social media. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Virginia.